My wife went behind my back with her handsome coworker, but I found this evidence.
Dear Reddit, I am a man in my 35th year. She is 32 years old, my wife. She is such a stunning and attractive woman. Everyone is enthralled with her effortless grace. Her flawless sense of style and exquisite taste in clothing are complemented by her inner beauty. Now that we have been married for 3 years, I still consider myself extremely fortunate to have her in my life. Her ease and assurance in every circumstance speak for itself, and her elegance beyond her outward look. She manages to leave a lasting impression on everyone she meets, and I am always in awe of that. We were high school sweethearts, and everyone who knew us thought we were meant to be together forever. We had a lovely house, 2 beautiful children ages 10 and 12, a wonderful dog and a seemingly perfect life. But as time went on, cracks began to appear in our seemingly perfect facade. The constant demands of work and parenting took a toll on our relationship, and we started drifting apart. Despite our best efforts, we couldn't ignore the growing distance between us. But deep down I always believed that there was love and mutual respect between us after all the ups and downs we had been through. As the parental demands kept on increasing, we were less and less available for each other. My wife started having long and unreasonable work hours, often coming home late at night or not coming home at all. This put a strain on our relationship as we hardly had any quality time together and made it difficult to communicate on a deeper level. Most often than not, I was left with taking care of my boys' needs by me, and it no longer felt like a team effort. I had to juggle their school schedules, extracurricular activities, and everyday tasks all on my own. The burden of responsibility weighed heavily on me, and I yearned for the support and shared responsibilities that a team effort brings. Never in my wildest dream had I imagined that my beautiful wife would do something unfathomable. I did not see it coming at all. It is hard to believe that a mundane act of taking the garbage out could lead to such a life-changing decision, but it did. One evening, as I walked towards the garbage cans, a wave of introspection washed over me. It was as if the routine task had triggered a deep reflection on my true desires and happiness. Despite the external picture-perfect life we had, I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something missing, something unfulfilled within me. As I was tossing in the last bag, I noticed something strange. There was a wrapper that had caught my eye. It was something I had never seen before. At that moment, my heart sank, and I knew that my suspicions were right. The wrapper had an unfamiliar logo and a peculiar design. Its vibrant colors and intricate patterns seemed out of place among the usual packaging. As I examined it closer, a sense of unease washed over me, as if this discovery held a deeper meaning that I was yet to uncover. It was a used condom which did not belong to me. This is not something that I used, and also it had been too long since I had sex with my wife. My wife was cheating on me. I could feel it in my gut. The weight of the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I returned to the house in a daze, my mind racing. How could she do this to me? I loved her more than anything in the world, and this was how she repaid me? It was unfathomable. Despite my initial shock, I tried to convince myself that I was overreacting. Maybe there was a logical explanation for the protective wrapper in the bin. Maybe she had a medical issue that I didn't know about. But deep down, I knew the truth. The evidence was too overwhelming to ignore. The texts on her phone, the late nights at work, and now this mysterious wrapper, it all pointed to one thing: betrayal. My heart sank as I realized that our relationship would never be the same again. I tried to put it out of my head and go about our daily life as normal. I went to work, I played with my children, and I acted as though everything was fine. But the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that she was unfaithful. I started looking for signs, and they were all around me. The way she acted, the way she dressed, the way she talked, all of it seemed to point towards her being unfaithful. I could no longer ignore my intuition. I decided to confront her about my suspicions, hoping for an honest conversation that would put my mind at ease. However, deep down, I knew that regardless of the outcome, our relationship would never be the same again. So I confronted her. I told her what I had seen in the bin and asked her to explain it to me. At first, she was defensive, insisting that there was a logical explanation. But as I pressed her, her story started to unravel. She admitted that she had been having an affair for almost a year with the new employee at work. My world shattered around me as she confessed the painful truth. The trust one had placed in her was shattered, leaving me feeling betrayed and heartbroken. Everything I thought I knew about our relationship suddenly felt like a lie. I always had doubts about the new guy in her office. How she always mentioned that he was young and handsome. I couldn't help but wonder if her constant mention of his youth and attractiveness meant there was something more than just professional admiration. It made me question her intentions and whether she was developing a personal interest in him. She always denied stating that he was just a colleague. However, many people suspected that there was more to their relationship than she let on. Some even claimed to have seen them together outside of work hours, fueling the speculation further. During our confrontation, she told me that I was the only guy she had ever been with. She never knew any other way of being loved apart from the way I did. This new guy tried to take interest in her, which she ignored initially. As days went by, she could not help but start feeling attracted towards him. She liked the way he looked at her and the way he complimented her. One day, when their hands brushed, it sent a shiver down her spine. She found herself eagerly anticipating their interactions, cherishing every moment they spent together. The subtle physical connection they shared only deepened her growing infatuation, leaving her yearning for more intimate moments with him. She did not feel this way ever in her life, and without a thought wanted to experience this feeling more and more. She yearned to delve deeper into this newfound emotion, craving its intoxicating presence in every aspect of her existence. The allure of this sensation was irresistible, urging her to seek out new experiences that would intensify and prolong this euphoria. She said that he made love to her in a way that she had never experienced before. It was an intimate encounter that left her feeling both exhilarated and deeply connected to him. The passion and tenderness he brought to their lovemaking awakened a new level of pleasure within her, making her crave more of his touch and presence. Listening to her talk about it was making me both sick and furious. How could she so shamelessly describe her lust in such a tasteful manner? It was appalling to witness her lack of remorse as she indulged in graphic details, disregarding any sense of decency. Her audacity to glorify her immoral desires only intensified my feelings of disgust and anger. I realized that I could never trust her again. I loved her, but I couldn't forgive her for what she had done to me. I couldn't live with the constant suspicion and doubt that would always be there. Despite my love for her, I made the difficult decision to end our relationship. It was a painful choice, but I knew it was necessary even though it seemed like an impossible task at the time. Ending our relationship was the only way I could regain my peace of mind and protect my own emotional well-being. It took immense strength to walk away from someone I still loved, but I knew that staying would only prolong my suffering and prevent me from moving forward in life. I asked her to move out of my house at that instant. I did not even want to look at her face. She told me that she got carried away and would not want to ruin our relationship. I forced her out of our room into the hallway and asked her to leave. She said that she cannot live without the kids, but it was too late for that. If she cared so much about them, she would not have taken such decisions. I sternly reminded her that her actions had consequences and that she should have thought about the kids before making such a reckless choice. As I closed the door behind her, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and sadness, realizing that our relationship had reached an irreparable point. The next day, I filed for divorce. It was a painful and arduous process, but I knew that it was the only way forward. I hired a lawyer who made sure that she neither gets any alimony nor the custody of my kids due to her cheating behavior. My lawyer suggested that I appeal in court that a woman who did not think about the well-being of her kids and hid her affair for almost a year did not deserve the custody of kids. He also asked me to present any evidence that I had collected of her infidelity and emphasize how her actions had negatively impacted our children's emotional well-being. I wanted her to realize that she made a huge mistake by taking things for granted. How much ever she tried, I would try with all my means to keep her away from my house and also my kids. The next day, I called all of our mutual friends and let them know that I had left my wife as she was cheating and would expect them to stay by my side. I also drove to her office during lunchtime to go meet her. I then announced in front of all her colleagues that we separated and she can now officially date this guy. I also questioned their boss about the company policy of office romance and what are the rules that apply to people who have affairs. I learned that after a week, both my wife and her boyfriend were fired from their respective jobs due to the policies against office romance. The news of their termination caused quite a stir in the office, with rumors and gossip spreading like wildfire. However, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction knowing that the consequences of their actions had caught up with them. It was a harsh lesson for both my wife and her boyfriend, serving as a reminder that actions have consequences, not only in personal but also in professional settings. It was sad to see the life we had built together falling apart, but I knew that it was for the best. Looking back, I realized that finding that protective wrapper in the bin was a blessing in disguise. It exposed the truth about my wife's infidelity and allowed me to finally confront the painful reality of our crumbling relationship. The discovery of her betrayal shattered my trust, but it also gave me the strength to start rebuilding my life and finding happiness again. It was a painful experience, but it taught me a lot about myself and what I'm willing to accept in a relationship. I learned the importance of trust and communication, and now I prioritize these qualities in any future relationships. Now, I'm in a much better place. I'm single, but I'm not alone. I have a great support system in my friends and family. I'm much happier than I was in my marriage. I try to spend as much time as I can with my kids. Since the end of my marriage, I have found a newfound sense of happiness and contentment. It has allowed me to prioritize spending quality time with my children, cherishing every moment we have together. I have come to realize that sometimes the end of one chapter is just the beginning of another, and this new chapter in my life is just beginning. In conclusion, if I were to give any advice to someone going through a similar situation, it would be this: trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Don't ignore the signs. It's important to listen to your gut feelings and acknowledge any red flags that may arise. Trusting your instincts can help you make informed decisions and protect yourself from potential harm or disappointment. Remember, your intuition is a powerful tool that shouldn't be underestimated. Last, but most importantly, don't settle for less than you deserve. Life is too short to be unhappy. We all deserve to be loved and respected. Comments *. 1. U/Reddit user 1 *. This is what happens when a man is busy with providing for the family. The woman decides that she is not getting enough love and tries to seek love outside of marriage. She does not even think of the hard work this man has put to bring food to the table and for all the comforts she was enjoying. She starts feeling neglected and unappreciated. She may begin to question the stability of their relationship and wonder if she is still valued by her partner. This can lead her to seek emotional fulfillment elsewhere, as she longs for the affection and attention she feels is lacking in her marriage. She tries to find a new man who can act at her whims and wishes. Once she finds such a man, she leaves her old relationship for this new ignited love. 2. U/Reddit user 2 *. I think you did the right thing by teaching her a lesson. Well deserved. People who take advantage of your trust should be taught a lesson. It's important to set boundaries and ensure that others understand the consequences of their actions. By teaching her a lesson, you are not only protecting yourself, but also sending a message that trust should never be taken for granted. It's crucial to maintain healthy relationships built on mutual respect and honesty. I wonder if she will find another igniting man and then move on to him after she is done with this one. 3. U/Reddit user 3 *. I believe that love makes you lose your senses and do things that are out of your normal character. It has the power to cloud your judgment and make you act impulsively, sometimes without considering the consequences. Love can be both exhilarating and overwhelming, pushing you to take risks and step outside of your comfort zone. Since she was only with one person her entire life, she was unaware of what true love is. She longed to experience the exhilaration and depth of emotions that come with being in a passionate and fulfilling relationship. The absence of varied experiences left her yearning for a connection that would ignite her soul and show her the true essence of love. Update. The next few months were the most difficult of my life. I was a single father, trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered existence, while also trying to be there for my children. It was a tough balancing act, but I made it work. I was also finding out ways of how I could punish my wife for the betrayal that she had induced in my life. I had made sure that my wife was staying away from my kids. I did not let her talk to them or meet them. My kids were mature enough to understand what was going on and fully cooperated with my decision. They did not want to talk to her as well. They were as upset with her as I was. They could not believe that their mother could do something like this. Her new boyfriend that she had been cheating on has deserted her when she told him that she won't be getting any alimony but would like to appeal for custody of the kids. He was expecting her to get a hefty alimony with which he could start his own business. He blamed her for not being careful and getting caught by me. This is what karma looks like. He believed that she deserved to suffer the consequences of her actions and felt betrayed by her lack of financial support. As I watched their relationship crumble, it became clear that her deceitful behavior had finally caught up with her, serving as a lesson in the workings of karma. In the end, she is the one left with no one by her side. This is all due to her actions, and she is paying the price for it. She neither has a loving husband nor kids that she can lean on. Loneliness has become her constant companion, as she struggles to find solace in the absence of a support system. Her choices and behavior have isolated her, leaving her yearning for the warmth and comfort of a family that could have been hers.
Good day. I don't know if I'll be able to string these words together. My head is a mess at the moment and I don't know how to act. I'm writing this now to see if I can get it off my mind. My pregnant wife has been lying to me for a while now, and I just found out that not only is she lying, she's cheating too. I, 37 male, have been married to my wife, 35-year-old female, for about 7 years now. We have no children, although she's pregnant as I'm writing this. A few months back, I started noticing some changes in my wife's behaviors. She was always a shy, quiet, and all-in-all introverted lady, and that was one of the reasons why I first fell in love with her. We used to cuddle for long hours, without saying a single word to each other, and for someone who's working. Life is very stressful, that was all I needed. But as I said, I started to notice her change. At first I thought it's good that she's starting to come out of her shell, took her 35 years, lol. She started going out more with friends, and she also started staying out long. Before then, my words were a commandment to her. She never went anywhere without my permission. She never did anything too without my permission. Luckily for me, my wife and I cloned each other's WhatsApp account on our phones. I had hers on mine and she also had mine on hers. We did this close to 12 years ago, 6 months after we started dating. It was something of an inside joke born out of seeing the sheer amount of people on the internet who had either been cheated on or duped out of a fortune by the SO. I hardly ever checked it because I trusted her, and she, before now, had never given me any reason not to trust her. But hey, here we are now. When I opened her WhatsApp on my phone, I saw different conversations from men and women that I have never known in my life. Many of those messages were inconsistent, as though she was deleting them. I started to get a little bit suspicious of what was going on. My wife worked for a friend of ours at a gym, so I just shrugged the weird feeling off. Maybe they now have new customers, I thought. Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering, and thank you so much if you subscribed. Even though I chose not to think too much about what I saw, I decided to turn on notifications for her messages. Let me see what it is she's deleting before she deletes them. One night, while my wife and I were cuddled up in bed, she got a text on her phone. She checked it, smiled, and headed for the bathroom. Hey, what's that? I asked. Nothing, it's just Haley. Haley was a longtime friend of hers. At first, I went back to bed since it's just Haley, why should I care about their conversation? I wanted to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. I have insomnia. So after staying awake for some time, I decided to just check my phone for a minute. As I was scrolling through TikTok, laughing at memes, I got a notification from my wife's WhatsApp account. It was from a contact saved under my husband. I was wowed. I figured she had saved the number, cause I wouldn't bother checking my messages. Now that I think of it, that was really clever of her. I opened the message. Holy shit. My jaw dropped for what felt like a minute. I scratched my eyes and pinched myself, hoping this was a dream. It wasn't. What did I see? A long history of back and forth messaging from my wife and this random guy, ranging from sharing nudes to talking about how they longed for one another, and sadly, some messages dissed me. How could she? What even annoyed me the most was the fact that whilst I read the chat, more messages were popping up. What do you have on? He sent her, to which she responded saying, just a robe, do you want me to take it off for you? He sent a yes, and after some seconds, she sent him a video of her, touching herself, fully nude. Right under my nose. She was doing this right under my nose. I swear I almost cried. It took the will of 1,000 Smiths for me to close that clone app. Minutes later, she got out of the bathroom, got dressed, and headed out. I wanted to follow her, trail her, see who she was cheating on me with, and deal with the both of them. I opted not to, because I knew that with how mad, heartbroken, and pissed off I was, I might have hit Ctrl Z on both their lives. I couldn't sleep that day. I went to the very top of the chat and started reading. From when he first slid into her DMs, she was mad at him for disrespecting me to my face, then mad at me for not doing anything about it. I was confused. I'm normally not one to take disrespect from anyone. As I read on, I found out who it was she was cheating on me with, and if you're guessing Haley's boyfriend, you're 100% accurate. This meth, I thought. I helped him get on Haley's good graces 5 years ago, and this is how he repays me? By screwing my wife? Then it hit me. My wife's pregnancy. Is the baby even mine? Wow. I was grateful to God when we got the news, but now I'm hoping that somehow the kid isn't mine. 'Cause now I decided I was going to leave. I don't really think I need advice here. Maybe if I go back and forth with someone in the comments, I can slowly move on from this. Also, I'm hoping that anyone who sees this and is going through something similar, I'm hoping you find happiness again. Anyway, I went to my lawyer house the next day, being Saturday. See, my lawyer was a childhood friend of mine, and he never seemed to like the woman I gave my surname to. We had discussed the situation. I let him have his "I told you so" rants for a few minutes. Then we went down to business. I need a divorce, and I need it yesterday, I told him. I brought him all the documents and asked him to prepare the divorce papers for me, quickly. You're lucky she made you sign the prenup, he said. I guess I was lucky. With the amount of money you have now and that which she earns now, you would have had to pay her off a couple $100,000. Oh my God. I couldn't think straight. I almost fell to my knees in thanksgiving. I thanked God I signed the prenup because, to be fair, I didn't even want to. To give you a rundown, when we were getting married, I was still doing odd jobs while managing my startup company. So I was earning a little above minimum wage while she was making roughly $70K annually. She cited the fact that her company had her in line for management and yada yada yada, so she made me sign the prenup. Well, fortunately and unfortunately for her, when the coronavirus came, her company was one of them that got swept off by the 1.5-year-long lockdown. It got so bad that towards the end, they couldn't even pay their workers. They owed a lot of money, and she ended up getting let go. On the other hand, the lockdown brought good tidings my way. My startup started to make some money, and I was able to retire from working altogether, as by the time the lockdown got to 10 months, I was already making close to $20K monthly whether I came into the company or not. So, back to the issue on ground. My wife angers me to even call her that now, so I'll call her by the devil's spawn name she was given. After talking about what to do with Lucy for a while, I decided that I was going to stack evidence up. I was going to print out screenshots of both their infidelity. I was going to get videos too. I was going to send it to her parents and to the church. She was a minister at our church, and if the kid isn't mine, I was going to leave. I and my lawyer friend Davis went to the bar to help me cool down. He suggested he helped me bag a shawty to hook up with for the night, which I declined. Hooking up with randoms is what got me into this mess. At the end of the day, I was too drunk to drive, so Dave dropped me off at home. As I sat there, drunk, thinking of how my life, which I had planned to be perfect, had now gone up in flames, I was so distraught. At some point, my hours of thinking, I didn't even know when I brought out a rope, hung it up and sat there looking at it for a while. Looking back at it now, that was the most cowardly thing to do, but then I was ready to bid this shitty life going. I went for a run. When I came back, my wife sat in the parlor crying. I hadn't put back the rope and she had seen it there. She ran to hug me as she saw me walk in, saying how she never knew I was going through something, how I never said a word about my pain to her, how she couldn't believe I would try to take my own life and leave her alone with the kid. I was disgusted by her words. The mere sight of the woman I had loved for over 10 years now started to make my stomach turn. She tried to kiss me, saying everything would be all right. I bowed my head. She thought it was 'cause I was still depressed or whatever. At that moment, I looked her in the eyes and asked her, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" She froze, looking at me like she was trying to read my mind. I repeated the question, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" Could you believe this devil's child tried to gaslight me? Me? How dare she try to play the mind games? "What do you mean?" she asked. "Are you crazy? I'm here crying my eyes out about you wanted to unalive yourself and you have the guts to ask me, is there anything you want to tell me? Is this some sort of a joke?" she added. After a lot of shouting and arguing, I was even surprised that I didn't let slip that I knew she was cheating. She went up to the bedroom and I starred in the parlor for a while. I have had it up to my neck, so I decided to pour it out here before I try again and succeed this time. Update. Thank you guys for reaching out to me. I planned to update you all, but I came out of retirement like Lionel Messi, LOL. I took the advice of some of you who said I should seek therapy. I was never really a fan of it, but I must say it has helped me a lot in this trying time. I've also started hitting the gym, as is normal in these situations. I'm glad I shared my story because I never really knew what I would have done if I didn't. After that long argument where I left off, we didn't talk for weeks, which was fine by me as I didn't want to see her face anymore. I kept on taking screenshots and piling them up. Also, I put up hidden cameras in the house. Lucy owned the place. I wanted to believe that she didn't bring him over to the house and that they didn't do anything on the bed we shared. Well, let's just say I was stupid for thinking they wouldn't. After one more month, I had loads of evidence. I created a website which I posted all the videos I gathered, from videos of him to videos of hers, to videos of both of them. If you had seen me working on that website, you'd have thought I was creating a porn site. Well, 3 months later, Lucy was in labor. I had drafted all the necessary documents and had filed for a divorce. Her labor was on the day of her cheating partner's anniversary with Haley. Coincidence? I think not. I went over to their place with a copy of the documents and records of the affair. I knocked on the door and was greeted by Haley's. I handed the documents to her and say to her, "Your husband and my soon-to-be ex-wife are screwing each other." Within seconds, her husband came out, unclad but for a towel wrapped around his waist. I guess he didn't hear me at the door. From the look on both our faces, he knew what was going on. "Honey, I can explain, he said. Why do they always think they can explain? In a fit of rage, since I was days away from being free, I rushed at him, swinging. I even thought he would be able to put up a fight, but he wasn't. Such a pathetic, weak man. He was in his early 40s. As he laid on the ground, passed out like a fat man after one round of intimacy. I stood over him, wondering what would make Lucy cheat on me with this peon. As I left, I pulled his hair, taking a few with me. Now to find out if I'll be paying child support or not, I went back to the hospital, the nurses wondering why I had left and why I was walking in blood-fisted and with hair in my hand. I walked straight to one of the midwives, handed her the hair and said, "Take this. Immediately that child is born, run a DNA test with this hair and with my blood sample. Also, if the child is not mine, be sure my name isn't on the birth certificate." I went out again, to the church this time. Luckily, the pastor was on seat. I handed him another copy of the documents. I didn't even have time to see the look on his face. I placed calls, telling my Staub ex-wife's family that I have an important announcement and I want to meet all of them at their father's house. When I got there, they were all waiting for me. I started handing out more copies, from mom to dad, to brother to sister. Everyone got copies. I made to leave, then turned to them. "She's in labor, may be mine, may not be mine. Then I made to leave again. Her younger sister, who weirdly also got cheated on, ran to hug me. She was crying. Her brother shook my hands and said, "Do what you have to do, man. She f***ed up. Feed her to the streets." Her dad walked towards me. A tear in his eyes, he stood in front of me for a while, both of us eyeballing each other. Then he spoke. "You've been the best partner any of my children has had, and you've been my favorite in-law. I know you're going to split from her, and frankly, I'm not asking you guys to stay together. I just want you to know, I didn't raise her this way." He hugged me, and for the first time in this whole ordeal, I cried. I headed home, called Davies, and set up the final phase. The big reveal. I had decorated the whole house with balloons and baby stuff, and hung a big sign on the wall which read, "I know what you did." I went back to the hospital. I had already missed the birth of the child, and this woman who doesn't know we are soon getting separated had the audacity to frown. She wanted to argue with me for missing the childbirth, but she needed her rest. I asked to see the child. The nurse looked at me. She had a sad look on her face. I knew what she meant. The child wasn't mine. I had mixed feelings about it. Happy that I don't have anything that would make me have to see this woman again, and sad that I didn't have a child. I went outside and made more phone calls. I called everyone to come to the house that we were celebrating the birthday of the child. Lots of other people in the neighborhood who knew her and us. I really wanted to crush this woman's whole life. Hours later, the doctor let us leave. I thanked the nurse for not putting my name on the BC and left. She tried to argue with me on the way home, but I stayed quiet. I had her right where I wanted her. On getting home, we were greeted by everyone. I was happy. Everyone was here. Her childhood friends, her work colleagues at her new job as a secretary, some well-wishers from the church. Yes, this was the first time I was happy in a while. I was ready to drink her tears. Davis was inside. I had him turn on the 102's plasma TV in the room and had it displaying the videos of her infidelity. We walked in. Her eyes first went to the big sign on the wall. Then everyone walked in ready for a party of some sorts. Psych. I must admit, ruining her life was probably what made me finally find peace. I had washed her dirty laundry in the open, lol. She fainted. I waited for her to awake, then handed her the divorce papers. Davis said to her, "You see, the only good thing about this is you made him sign a prenup thinking he'd want your money. Now you're broke and you're not going to get any divorce settlements." She tried to plead, to hold me in her arms and cry and beg. I laughed and looked at her, then I said, "Remember that day when you found the rope? That day I wanted to end my own life? It was because of you. I gave you a chance to come clean to me, but you decided to pee all over my grave. I was as good as dead then, and you laughed in my face, you mocked me. Well, it's payback time." I looked her in the eyes and said, "I'm done. We're done." Then I reached for my pocket, pulled out my phone, blocked and deleted her number right there and then, in front of her and everybody. She was still crying, snort and mucus coming out of her nose and mouth. She looked at me and said, "Babe, stop. Think about our child. I love you. Don't leave me. Please." I laughed TBH. She didn't know I already tested the kid. I reached again for my pocket, pulling out the DNA results. I placed it on the table. And in true Michael Jackson fashion, I said, "But the kid is not my son," as I moonwalked out of the crowd. 2 weeks later, the divorce was final. Very quick, very smooth. I paid nothing, shared nothing, as we didn't even have a joint account. I was free. I saw her only at the depositions. She was a shadow of herself. She wore my clothes to the both of them. It was funny, I swear. Looking at this woman who I loved for 10 years, this woman who, 8 months ago, I would have given my life for without questions, I felt nada. Nada. I won't be updating any further, as I think I have done the story justice. As for how my life is now, I'm just alive in the moment. Davis and I go out once a week to pick up some ladies to hook up with. I've become very fit from the months of living in the gym, lol. So I've become a real ladies' man. As for my ex-wife, I've not heard from her in 3 months. I heard her mum died a few days after I visited. Something, heart failure, I didn't check up. I've continued my therapy, with my therapist very disappointed by my scorched earth revenge. Thank you for reading and responding. I'll take all your judgments and criticism, praise and support in. But hey, as I said, this is goodbye.